Okay, as promised, here is Chapter 5, Lesson 1 about legal and financial requirements. So I said it was going to be a little bit of a snooze fest, and it's true, it will be. So let's jump into it. I'll do my best to make it exciting and be efficient, just get right to the point. So the key point of this lesson is to utilize your local elections office. So every county, and in some cases city, across the United States has some sort of office for elections. It could be called like the Commission on Elections, the local Board of Elections, county, maybe it might be called something along the lines of like voter registrar or voting office, something like that. But it will be like elections office, election voting, something with like the name of your county. And what this office is tasked with doing is ensuring that elections are run correctly and fairly in your county. So that's one piece. The second piece is ensuring that people that want to run for office have all of the resources available to them to ensure that they're doing it in a compliant way with government regulations. So the theme throughout this lesson is that this office in your local jurisdiction is there for you. They're being funded by your taxpayer dollars, and they are working for you when you run for office. So you need to utilize them and all the resources that they have available to you. It's been a theme of policy in the United States for a while to encourage folks to run for office and be engaged in their community via elected office. So this just fits perfectly in line with that policy goal for a long time, that if a citizen wants to run for office, the government needs to provide resources to them to be able to do so without it being a huge red tape nightmare. So let's move forward and find how to find your local elections office. So just simply start with a Google. Put in your county name. I'm from California and now live in New York City, and we use the word county. So it's like city, county, state, country. But I guess in some parts of the United States it's called like a ward or I think there's another word for it too. So if I'm not speaking your same language, sorry, but that's what I mean by county. So you'll just have a simple Google, like I'm from Sutter County. So I would say, if I was living in Sutter County in Northern California, I'd say Sutter County, California Elections Office, and then see what that brings up. And we'll do this live together here in 1 second. And then I also have some examples in the notes section here of different county elections office, so you can get a feel for what I'm talking about. And the big thing that you're going to be looking for when you find their website is a campaign handbook. Could have a number of different titles, but what it'll be is likely a PDF document, maybe a Word doc, but some sort of document that is a convenient go-to location for candidates for office, and a convenient location for every sort of regulatory requirement or any kind of filing requirement, any offices they'll be needing to speak with. It could even go into details about how to set up your bank account for the correct financial disclosures. So that's the primary thing you'll be looking for, is something called like a candidate handbook or like campaign candidates guide, something along those lines. So let's get into a live example here, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, here we are in Google, and let's try and think of a random county that I would know nothing about. So let's think of a random state first. So first word that comes to mind is New York, because I live in New York. Newior. Okay, we'll go with R. Rhode Island. Okay, I don't know anything about Rhode Island. So let's do a little search here. Rhode Island counties. List of counties in Rhode Island. I'm just doing this, guys, so that it's random, so it doesn't look like I just figured out something. Newport County. Okay. Newport County, Rhode Island. All right. Newport County, Rhode Island Elections Office. Let's see what that gets us. Okay, Rhode Island Board of Elections. That looks like the right thing. So let's see. Yeah, State of Rhode Island, Board of Elections. Okay, so this looks like it's administered by the state. All right, let's see if there's one for that county. So we have Rhode Island Board of Elections. RhodeIsland.gov election results. That's probably not right. Upcoming election center. This is the city of Newport. We want Newport County. Ballotpedia. I know what that site is. That's not it. Oh, another call out here. We're looking for .gov websites, ones that are official government websites. Okay. All right. So it looks like everything is probably administered via the state website here. So let's check that out. Okay. Register to vote for election night results. I want to, okay, let's see this. I want to view election results, check on the status of my view information, find out where I view campaign finance publications, find my local board of canvassers. I'm not really sure what that is. Let me just look at that real quick. Let's see what they call campaign with a board of canvassers. I don't know what that is. Okay, these are different cities, it looks like, in Rhode Island. Here's Newport. Okay, yeah, that doesn't look valuable. Elections, let's see what's under elections. Poll worker, election districts, elected officials, previous election results, publications. Okay, let's see what publications has. Election results counts book, statistics, election, guide to election, poll worker. Okay. I think this campaign finance section is probably what we're going to need. So another call out here is that a lot of times this information might be intertwined with campaign finance. So a lot of regulations that were created around running for office are like intrinsically linked up with or part of campaign finance. A lot of these disclosures were created so that we could keep track of who's giving money to candidates, and then potentially, that provides more transparency with who the candidates really are and who's supporting them, et cetera, et cetera. So let's see here. Campaign finance, reporting schedules, manuals. That's probably what we want. Yeah, okay. 2018 Summary Guide to Campaign Finance Laws, page 1. That's probably what we want. So let's take a look at this PDF. I think I picked a hard county for my random county here. Okay. So notice what we're going to say, campaign bank account. So a candidate must maintain a separate campaign account, not a financial institution with a branch in Rhode Island, at a financial institution. Okay, campaign finance reports. Okay, so here it's giving you these forms that you need to fill out. Expenditures must include this and that. Closing a campaign account, that's useful. That information can be hard to find sometimes. We talk about that in chapter 10, closing out campaign accounts. Penalties, late filing fees. Okay, campaign content. All right, so really, really important thing to note here, telephone number. So if you're not finding this perfect candidate guide that tells you everything you would want to know, you're going to call them or stop by the office. So here's this other one, page 2. It says, person subject to the campaign finance law. Okay, any person who undertakes any action, whether preliminary or final, which is necessary in the law to qualify for nomination for each elected office. Okay, filing requirements. This is pretty good here. 2018. Okay. Candidates, PACs, or political party committees. Okay, so this looks like it's a pretty good summary of everything that you would need. That you would need to do if you were running in, I think we said Newport County in Rhode Island. So, all right, this is pretty good. But, like I said, you will want to contact these folks. So we have this telephone number down here. Give them a call and say, hi, my name's Chris Moore. I'm running for county supervisor or school board or whatever in Newport County. I saw this flyer, these, page 1 and page 2 online. Seems like a pretty good summary of some different filings that I'll need to do from a campaign finance perspective. But is there anything else that I should be aware of? Do you have any handy guides or PDF documents that would go over all the different filings I would need to do as a candidate? And they should be totally willing and able to help you with everything that you would need. Okay, so there's a little example of how you would kind of go down that hunt. And like I said, this one is a bit, this is not as good as most states and counties that I've looked up previously. Okay, so let's jump back over here to our course content. Okay, just wanted to throw out a few disclaimers here for you guys. First, that I'm not an elections lawyer, so anything about candidate filings or legal requirements, I'm not a member of any bar association. I haven't been to law school. My advice is not legal advice, so it should not be treated as such. The best thing to do is, and I'll talk about this in a little while, do as much of the legal and financial requirement work that you can on your own, and then you have to consult an elections lawyer and an accountant. Which brings me to my second point. I'm not a CPA, not a certified public accountant, so financial requirements and filings, once again, my advice is not that of a CPA and shouldn't be treated as such. And then here's this good money saving tip for you, and I've used this in lots of different facets of my life, but do as much as you can and then consult an accountant and a lawyer. I've put together plenty of legal documents, legal contracts that I've just written myself in Microsoft Word, modeling after contracts that I've read elsewhere, and I've used that for business dealings and a variety of different purposes. And so I do the heavy lifting myself. I write what I think needs to be there, and then I consult with a lawyer to make sure everything's above board. And it saves you a lot of money. I think anything that's related to like legal dealings or financial dealings, people are like, oh, I'm so terrified I'm going to screw something up, or like, oh, people go to school for years to be able to do this, and they're the only ones that can really get a start on this and do any work on it. But it's not true. You're smart. You can get some of this stuff put together yourself, and then you go and spend the big bucks on the lawyer or the accountant to make sure that everything is correct and above board and has that security there with those folks. All right, so let's just take a little bit more dive into this idea of a campaign committee. So this is integral to the legal and financial requirements of your campaign. So the campaign committee is the legal entity that is your campaign. So if you think about, I know it's a little bit confusing, but if you think of a corporation, a business is made up of all sorts of things. It's the people that work there, it's the products that they sell, it's maybe the building that they have all their workers and factories and stuff in. That's a business. But from a legal perspective, it's like ABC Company Limited LLC, something like that. So it's the same idea here, that your campaign has tons of people working for it, volunteering for it. They're creating flyers. Maybe you have like a campaign headquarters where people like blow up red, white, and blue balloons. Like, that's your campaign. That's what's going on. But from a legal perspective, it's the committee to elect Chris Moore for Sutter County Supervisor. That's like the legal entity. So we'll talk about this a little bit more, kind of using that same example here. So think of like from a legal perspective, like a corporation is equal to a person. You can also think of that as equal to a campaign committee. I know a lot of people don't like the idea that under the law, for the most part, corporations are treated a lot like people, and that corporations can own things and enter into contracts, and that they're a lot like a person. Well, think along those same lines, and it's the same to a campaign committee. So let's like flesh this out a little bit more with an example. So let's say we have this fake LLC here, limited liability company. It's called Sacramento Valley Health Services, and that's been registered with the state, California in this case, and it's a registered LLC. That's the legal entity. Well, like, what is it? Well, its purpose is to make money selling medical supplies to Sacramento residents at great prices with outstanding customer service. Okay, so this is a business. They're selling medical supplies and they want to do it at great prices. They want to have outstanding customer service. So this is their business. That's the purpose of this LLC. Well, how do they do that? They source top quality products at bulk, cheap prices. They hire friendly staff. They drive business with creative, warm advertising. They stay abreast of industry trends, and they innovate in order to stay competitive. So this is a business. This is what the business does: sourcing the quality products, hiring friendly people. That's all things that a business does day to day. When you think about a business that you love, let's say it's Nike. Well, they build factories and hire people and sew shoes together and create really awesome advertising that like shows how amazing their brand is and makes people want to buy their shoes. Like, that's the business. But I bet you there's like a Nike Limited Corporation, or LLC or whatever, and that's the legal entity. So if we think about this is like the business perspective, and then take this analogy and apply it to a campaign committee, then here's a generic example, like I said. So like, committee to elect Chris Moore supervisor. So that's the name of the committee. Like Sacramento Valley Health Services LLC, this is committee to elect Chris Moore supervisor. So what's its purpose? It's to elect Chris Moore to Sutter County Board of Supervisors by communicating issues, positions widely favored by Sutter County voters, and exciting the electorate with ads and volunteers. So that's the purpose of this thing. Well, how does it do that? It develops a policy platform and campaign message. It buys ads to communicate that campaign message. It fundraises. It recruits volunteers, etc. So that's what you think about, like, what's the campaign actually doing, and like, what is the campaign? It's that. That's the campaign. But the legal entity is a committee to elect Chris Moore supervisor. Okay. I know this stuff's a little bit dry, but I just wanted to clarify that quite a bit because it has been a point of confusion for people in the past, and just wanted to make sure we were crystal clear about that. So a campaign committee, how do you form it? Okay, this gets a little bit dry and boring here, guys, and the big call out here is that it's different in every single jurisdiction. So my goal is to provide you with some steps that you're likely going to have to go through in order to be able to figure out how to form it in your local jurisdiction the correct way. Because I can't explain how to do it in every single county across the entire United States. But it is very, very similar across every single county. So I'm trying to provide those like similar guidelines here. So another quick call out here is that this should go on your critical path that we created in Chapter 4 on campaign governance and roadmap. You'll recall that critical path are actions that you absolutely must take in order for your campaign to even happen. So it's 100% critical that these things actually happen. So that's your call out to pay special attention here with these steps. Okay, so how do you form it? So one is you find a treasurer. So the term treasurer is a bit different in campaign committee than it is as you might use it. So like I worked at a big giant financial institution. Treasurer there, or like treasury department there, is like purely how you fund loans to the general public. by essentially borrowing other money. That's the like treasury function there. Well, here it's a bit different. Sure, they are responsible for keeping track of the funding of your campaign and the appropriate disclosures around it, but they also serve as the person that signs off on all of the legal documents for your campaign. They are the point person that is the custodian of this legal entity. So it's someone that you really, really need to trust, and it's someone that you also so trust as a person, and then also trust as like very reliable. If you tell them something needs to get done by a certain time, then you need to have like 100% confidence that they're going to do that they're going to deliver on it. So that's the treasurer. 2, you have to set up a PO box. There has to be a physical mailing address for the campaign when you start to file some of these disclosures. So you need to set up a PO box. 3rd, you have to obtain an employer identification number, an EIN. So if you haven't worked on anything that's required you to get an EIN before, if you've formed a small business or like maybe work in payroll or something in a big company, you know what an EIN is. But it's basically like, so the government identifies me, Chris Moore, with my social security number. That's like my, if you had to have like a barcode on your arm, which would be crazy and scary, mine would say, my social security number. Kind of like that. Employer identification number is what is used to identify corporations and other legal entities in the eyes of the federal government. So 4, you have to file committee formation forms. So that is sort of what we were just looking at in that Rhode Island example. You'll find your local elections office, talk to whomever you need to talk with there, or find whatever guide you need to find, and it'll tell you like form like 1032A, 1033B, and it'll have information about who you are, what office you're seeking. That's sort of pertinent information that the government needs to know in order to get all the filings and just the logistics of the election to take place. 5 is open a bank account. And there is actually, I was a little bit surprised to see this, but most local elections offices, they'll even recommend banks or local, maybe it's a local credit union or something, that is used to opening these sorts of bank accounts, and maybe they have a manager there or a point person at that financial institution that candidates regularly work with, and so it makes the process a lot more seamless. But you do have to open up the bank account in the name of the committee, hence needing the employer identification number. Okay? And then 6, register with any kind of campaign watchdog that's out there. So in Sacramento County, you go to the Sacramento County Board of Elections and get any kind of guides that you need to. And then you would find a treasurer. So, okay, I have my best friend, Carol, and Carol has decided to be my treasurer. So, okay, great, thanks, Carol. I set up a P.O. box, and that can be in the name of the campaign or your own name, whatever, but you need to have the P.O. box. 3rd, I would obtain the employer identification number, and you can do that through the IRS, like irs.gov, really easily. 4th, I would file committee formation forms with the Sacramento County Board of Elections. Then I would go and open up a bank account, and then I would register with, it's called the FPPC, Fair Political Practices Commission, and they're the ones that look over campaign finance in the state of California and also keep track of lobbyists, registered lobbyists, and campaign contributions that they're making or any kind of gifts they're giving to elected officials. So this is the general framework that you'll use in your local jurisdiction. Take each one of these steps and have a Google about it, in attaching like your local jurisdiction, your local county, and just figure out everything that you can. But this is the general framework of what you'll need to go through in how to form that campaign committee. So here's some tips about forming that campaign committee. As I've said before, about manuals from your local elections office. So I've mentioned finding like a manual, a candidate's handbook, a candidate guide, but there may be many manuals. So make sure to look from your local elections office, but then also Google for like I mentioned, the Fair Political Practices Commission in California. Look for other campaign watchdog entities like that for your state, because they will have filings and documentation that they will also want you to fill out. And there could be manuals in different spots that only have one part of your filings. You can't rely on all this information being in one spot at one time. So on that note, when you're speaking with a government office or about different filings, make sure to ask them, so do you know of any other filing requirements I might need to take care of? These people know this stuff inside and out. It's their job. And like I said, they're getting paid with taxpayer dollars that you're paying out, so they're working for you. So they should be there to be helpful, to help you run for office. Because that is a public policy goal of our country, to make sure that when people want to run for office, that they can do so without it being a big giant pain in the ass. So make sure to utilize those people as much as you can. And like I said before, do all that you can on your own, and then have a lawyer and an accountant make sure that everything is above board. So, congrats guys. We just made it through probably the most boring part of this entire course. So if you're looking like these guys here on the screen, totally understandable. But glad that you were able to get through this, and make sure you do your due diligence here. It's super important. I wish I could give you like a tailored exact guide for every single office, but it's just not realistic because it, just so many jurisdictions across our entire country. So there we go, guys. We will jump into lesson 2 here in just a minute. So see you in a minute. Thanks.